Macara and welcome to Coming Home to Her. I am in Brazil and I just have to say one thing, which is anyone who's watching this or listening, you have to go to Brazil at least once in your life. I think this is my 30th time since I've been here, honestly, just because I think the first time I came here I was 4 months old, and it's so nice, and for myself such a wonderful kind of grounding feeling to come back to my mother's, let's say, roots, be with my family, and also just kind of indulge in everything Brazilian. I absolutely love everything about this country. I mean, it's a very special place, dear to my heart, honestly. And I mean, from the food to the people to the natural beauty and everything else, I think it's really very much of a special place that I think everyone should visit at least once in their life. It's funny, the other day I was speaking to a friend and I was telling her how it's so refreshing to be here in the aspect of just feeling more culturally connected, being able to connect in a different language, and essentially kind of having a different personality almost. I mean, I love speaking Portuguese. I think it brings out a really fun side of myself that I wouldn't say is very present in my day-to-day almost, depending where I am. It's not that deep, but you know what I mean? And I mean, just everything. That's all I gotta say. Everyone needs to come to Brazil at least once in their life. I thought it would be really important to kind of dive into a different topic in the regard of, let's say, for example, you had a very long day, you were out with your friends, or you were working, whatever it may be that, let's say, was quite exhausting, and you come home and the first thing you do instead of, let's say, relaxing, or, you know, your motive is to relax, you immediately grab your phone and you start scrolling. Sometimes it's funny, I know for myself, and I'm sure every single person can admit to this, we tend to grab our phones without even realizing, and your thumbs know exactly where to go, or to exactly whichever app you frequent, let's say, where your brain might even not notice what's going on or even process the act that you are doing. And every time that happens to me, I'm always like, oh no, why am I such a phone addict? Or why am I so addicted to social media and just constantly doom scrolling in that aspect of needing to be up to date, or let's say nosy in regard to see what other people that I know or follow are doing in their lives. Your nervous system is basically your body's security guard, and sometimes that security guard is a little dramatic. I think everyone can admit to that, especially, let's say, more of the anxious girlies in their 20s. Psychology research shows that our brains have negativity bias, where it essentially searches for problems or what could go wrong versus the feeling of safety and what is essentially going right. So even if your life is fine, your brain is kind of like, but what if it's not? And I think that's something that every single person can relate to. Of course, that stems more from anxiety, but essentially going back to how our nervous systems can be wired on a fight or flight mode. We know that in our generation, specifically in the 21st century, we live a life of being logged on the whole time. We don't necessarily have any downtime, I want to say, as we all work. We have responsibilities, we have things we need to do, constantly, let's say, overthinking, overstimulated depending on where you live, and just being on the go, go, go. This, of course, I would say is kind of embedded in our, productivity culture. Also the act of comparison with, having the internet being so accessible, and just creates kind of a sense of an unweary feeling in your stomach of never being fully present. Emotional stress triggers the same fight or flight response as danger does. And that's why I know we all have tense shoulders, a painful neck, and our stomachs are acting funky because it's internalizing in some aspect or another. If I can just reflect on myself, that I'm sure many people can also feel connected to, and being in this day and age, as I mentioned, of just being on the go and perhaps not really knowing how to relax, I catch myself all the time being on the go. I definitely am a type of person who struggles to fully relax and, let's say, have one day where I absolutely don't do anything. I can't just lay on the couch. It kind of makes me anxious, and not anxious in a very dramatic regard, but a restless feeling of just needing to go outside or needing to go on a walk, doing something, that is productive in one aspect or another, organizing my drawers, whatever it may be. And being in one place for myself is something that I kind of like end up feeling restless about. I'm very grateful for, the opportunities I have, and I absolutely love my life that I have the possibility to always be on the go. But when there are moments of, let's say, silence or moments of needing to reset, after one day, you're kind of like, okay, I'm ready. What's next? And I think for myself, actually, no, I don't think, I know, it is an unhealthy practice and something that I'm actively working on, or at least trying to be more aware of just being more zen and being fine with not always having something to do, not always, kind of, let's say, stressed out in one aspect or another, of having to be productive, having to meet people all the time, needing to do things that perhaps have been on my list for quite a while, and just learning to sit with myself, breathe in and out, because sometimes I forget to breathe, which is really funny, and just essentially trying to create some sort of balance where you kind of just chill the heck out, which is difficult. If your body is used to chaos, feeling calm and, let's say, just chilling out can also feel quite boring, and sometimes even slightly unsafe, which is a really bizarre concept to grasp, or even if you just think about yourself, kind of internalize or sit with the thought of how actually do I feel when I do have an off day, or if I'm on vacation, can I just literally lay in a lounge chair for a week, or do you constantly need to be doing something, adventuring, whatever it may be? Studies have shown that there are ways of calming these feelings down. I don't want to sound preachy, but just diving into the points that I read up on, and definitely have noticed a form of help within myself when I do try to incorporate these habits. Number one, breathing. I am most definitely a person who forgets to breathe. As weird as that sounds, also, when I'm exercising, I'm sometimes like, oh my gosh, why am I holding my breath? But being very present in your breath is something that is not so easy, honestly. So remembering to sometimes sit with yourself, whether that is a form of meditation or a form of, being more in tune with your body and more present in whatever it is that you are needing. I catch myself sometimes being like, why am I stressed? Why can't I breathe? Why am I having shallow breaths for no reason? Literally, absolutely no reason. And so something that I do like to practice is sitting down, or standing up if I am standing up, I don't know, and just being conscious of taking a deep breath in for 4 seconds and holding it for 4 seconds and then breathing out for 4 seconds. There are obviously many different forms of breathing exercises, and some that are shorter, some that are longer. And this is something that for myself is most definitely quite helpful, of just being more present, of just taking, let's say, how do I say that? Oh my gosh, I can't speak right now. You know what's really annoying? Sometimes I black out and I don't really know what to say, but being present in the regard of how you're breathing, how you can, fill your lungs up better, not to sound like a meditational therapist, but let's just say bringing focus to your breaths. And I honestly find it quite mesmerizing, the people who meditate on a daily basis. That doesn't necessarily mean that you need to sit in complete silence, but even just listening to a guided meditation, studies have definitely shown how much it helps everyone individually, and also something that it's not easy, and it's something that doesn't just come overnight and you master. I see that it is a practice that people need to continue working on and doing so, and something that I most definitely need to incorporate more in my life. Sleep, of course, is a very big one. I have friends who need 14 hours of sleep a night, and I have others who can run on 6 hours of sleep, so of course that's something very individual. For myself, I noticed that I absolutely need to sleep 8 hours a night, something that I cannot function without. Honestly, I absolutely hate when I don't get enough sleep, and the next day I feel like my brain is very discombobulated and a little sporadic and chaotic in that sense, where perhaps I'm not as efficient or productive as I would like to be. Another one is movement. we all know in 2026 that we all need some form of exercise. It's crazy, I have to say, when I am feeling quite stressed or overwhelmed or just a little anxious for no reason, how much just going outside on a walk or going to a workout class or the gym or whatever kind of activity I choose to do that day, how it positively impacts my brain. And essentially, I love when I exercise and all my thoughts just kind of get turned off. Sunlight is a big one. Also, I think being in nature makes a huge difference. I can see with myself that I am a totally different, renewed person when there is light and sun in the sky and literally touching grass. I mean, now that I'm here in Brazil, I go outside every morning and I stand barefoot in grass and I take a deep breath because I'm like, ah, zen. So remembering to go outside and literally touch some grass. Another big one is boundaries. I have, of course, touched base on the aspect of having boundaries in friendships, but also in many other ways, setting boundaries for yourself of not being a yes person 24/7, because if you are saying yes to too many plans and too many people, that stresses you out. It stresses your nervous system out naturally because you're not choosing yourself and you're not essentially doing things that bring you peace. You're, let's say, scramming or feeling overwhelmed that you need to do 20,000 other things for other people, which is very much not healthy. So ensuring to practice that balance of taking care of yourself as well. Screen time is a big one. We are all tablet people, and I'm very thankful at least that majority of my childhood up until middle school was absolutely not on an iPhone, and I was very much playing outside all year round. And just ensuring that we do limit ourselves on our screens. I mean, I absolutely don't limit myself. And something that I really need to do, I mean, I always see things on the internet, ironic enough, on the internet, where it's like, don't use your phone 2 hours before you go to sleep. I have not done that yet. I do try to read before I go to bed, but it is difficult to, not touch your phone. And I love when I see other people having, let's say, screen time limits. I don't really know how many of them essentially follow through, but just, having a reminder for yourself of don't go on your phone past X amount of time, or, your 20 minutes of doom scrolling is up. Another big one to, let's say, regulate our nervous system and be more present within ourselves is journaling. That works for some people and others it doesn't. So it is also kind of finding whatever fits your personality and your life, essentially. But in my experience, journaling is something that has brought me a lot of clarity in many ways. Just writing down your thoughts is something that you honestly kind of, let's say, have a little therapy session with yourself, because you're essentially writing out everything you're feeling, but just a way for you to channel your thoughts and internalize whatever it is that you are kind of dealing with. I am a huge therapy girly, and I love my therapist. Shout out Miriam, I know you're watching this. But also doing therapy is something where you essentially speak to someone who knows absolutely no one in your life, or doesn't know, let's say, the outside picture of everything. They only know you and what you share with them. And having someone where you can reflect your thoughts or your worries, your anxieties, can bring also a lot of clarity of just being able to reflect on whatever it is that you are dealing with, or reflect on the thoughts that have been creeping in your mind of, bad things or negative things, and also help you realize all the positive things that are going on in your life. I mean, I think we all know that life isn't perfect and everything is not going to be 100% all the time, and that's just something that we all cannot avoid and cannot not experience. But then I think it also brings so much joy of just having moments of learning how to be grateful for all the things that are going well in your life, whether that is having good health, being surrounded by good people, having family around you and people who are still alive in your life. These small acts of gratitude are also a way to feel more at peace of just realizing like, okay, everything is not exploding. There are actually good things that are happening in my life, and, good things that are to come, of course, just like there are probably, unfortunately, shitty times ahead as well. To close this episode off, there are a few points that I believe are very important to just remind ourselves. One, you're not dramatic. You're just going through the motions and the emotions of being in your 20s and perhaps feeling a bit uncertain. You're also not an anxious girl, but just reminding yourself that perhaps your body is honestly just a little off and not really knowing how to internalize or process these external stresses and internal anxieties that you are feeling. Also, just going through, let's say, a decade and chapter of your life that is so chaotic in so many ways, and you, of course, essentially have the power to steer your life wherever you want to go. That is kind of a big thing to sit with and kind of ponder on, as I've mentioned in previous episodes. And just chilling the F out. I think that's something our generation most definitely needs to be better at, and something that we probably should remind ourselves every day to do so. Another thing is that perhaps your body is just really good at feeling anxious or feeling alert. And so reminding yourself to incorporate small habits to make yourself feel more grounded or make yourself feel more present in your daily life. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this episode and that you limit your screen time just like I need to limit mine.